This is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
Hey, it's Mark Fishkin here with guest host Mike Battista. Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. Big rivalry week, and things are looking up so far.
Yeah, no complaints. Sandra Schwartz is rotating the roster. The Red Bulls are scoring lots of goals, and they're winning. And they go for a 9-point week in the Hudson Derby on Saturday. Tonight on the show, we're going to review the Red Bulls 4-1 win at DC United. We're going to give our Bull in the Week on the night where many, many people could have won that honor. News on the Red Bulls training complex. We've seen video evidence of construction vehicles moving. Who is a rival in 2024, and what does it mean at a time when New York pasted DC United and they're unbeaten in 7 against them? We'll preview the season's first Hudson Derby, the Red Bulls at NYC at Citi Field for the first time. We have a great interview with Roberto Abramowitz of NYCFC Radio, and of course your email, and of course we like the liking and we like the subscribing. So please do us a solid, like and subscribe and like. Thank you, the management. Okay, New York goes down to DC. So many things went right for the Red Bulls. Elias Manuel with a beautiful rainbow really kind of pulled DC out, and New York's counterattack made him pay over and over and over again. There are 4 players for me who really stood out. Let's talk about Manuel's night for a minute. Mike, I mean, he's a guy who, has gotten a couple of starts, obviously with a rotated roster in a very busy week, and he had his moment and he shined.
He's a guy who slid down the depth chart of the New York Red Bulls from looking like he was going to be the next guy to being the second half, forward to replace. And he made his spot shine. Like, he took his opportunity, and that goal is going to be in so many montages for the next 10 years.
Yeah, especially when New York plays DC, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get into that whole rivalry thing, but that goal is just going to be like up front for a bit. I will say that even outside of that goal, I really liked what I saw from him, because the whole joke has been that he can't hit, the broadside of a barn. Right. And I think that most of his shots on Wednesday were on target, and he was pressuring the DC back line a lot. And for him to score 2 games in a row and for the goal to be that good, it's so well deserved.
Yeah, for sure. Frankie Amaya had another tremendous night. 2 assists, team of the match day. Fed the ball to Manuel, was involved in the buildup for one of the second half goals as well. I mean, he is, as our old friend Gerhard Schruber would say, he is on the limit. He is playing to the limit. So I'm kind of curious so much confidence out of Amaya.
I mean, just to borrow another Struber, he's so consistent. He's been like one of the most consistent players on the Red Bulls this year. I think him and Lewis Morgan, because Lewis Morgan's the one with 9 goals this season, but outside of him, it's been like a rotating bunch of people who are scoring. Frankie Amaya has been the guy who, if you need to get through the midfield, it used to be last season was John Tolkien. Right. This year it is Frankie Amaya. And it's funny because he's been the quiet support, because he's not the one making the headlines. And I almost adore that, because he's still unless he's playing FC Cincinnati, no one talks about Frankie Amaya.
Well, and they should. I mean, and to be fair, he's so shy. He had such a negative experience with the Cincinnati media. He rarely talks to the gathered, unwashed New York media. And you get it, but I mean, he's letting his personality shine through on the field. He's a former number 1 super draft pick, and it showed. Carlos Coronel in the second half of this game was called on multiple times. Also made the team of the match day. And I mean, Coronel's goals against average is the lowest in team history for players with more than 50 appearances. I mean, he has blossomed, we all knew that he kind of took a step back last year, but he is rapidly approaching his 2022 form.
It's not. I hate that you're right with the whole. He took a step back last year.
Well, the whole team did.
The whole team did. That's not fair. But I mean, you're right. Today, I was asked by Hudson Derby to do an opposition, Q&A.
Tell me about it.
Up for the game this weekend, and I realized oh god, the Red Bulls have only had 2 clean sheets this year, and Cornell's only got 1.
Right.
It's just been that kind of year where he's doing so much, but in terms of people don't talk about Aaron Judge unless he's hitting the home runs. People are going to look at Carlos Cornell and say, "Oh, he's like a 1 clean sheet." Nah, he's been tested a lot this year, especially with how much possession New York concedes the opposition.
Yeah,
the only reason that we have all those draws and not losses is because of him.
Yep, agreed. And then I'm going to add a 5th player to this list. We have Cam Harper, who spoke to the press after the game. I mean, goals in 2 straight games, really struggled for minutes at the start of the season, talked about how he had to press a new manager at the start of the year. And he also was way down the depth chart, was really kind of eclipsed by Peter Stroud, was thrown onto the field recently, and all he's done over the last number of games is impress.
When did he sign his new contract? Was it before the season or just the beginning?
I think it was after the season started.
I believe you're right.
And it raised some eyebrows, I think, because it was like, oh, okay, why not? Still a young guy, but he wasn't playing a lot, and depth player. But I mean, he's going to be tough to take off the field right now.
It's funny because when I was one of the people saying we should keep him, because I thought we should bring back the winger position, because
Right.
Lewis Morgan and him were perfect, and he was the good second half winger player.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out that wow, shocker, I'm not a coach. Where it's you can see how good he is at when you're not just shoving him in the attacking forward position, we're not shoving him in the back. They tried to make him a defender. And it did not work. But when you make him an offensive player, it works so well. And he's very versatile. Now, he has quirks, but I mean, he can get the ball to the wings, and he has the speed to be a breakaway guy. And I think more and more we're seeing that from him. And get that bag, Cam. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the ball from Forsberg, the run from Manuel across the formation opens the space, ball played into Harper. He stops, he cuts, defender flies out of the way, and unleashes a shot from 8 yards. Clinical, too close to the keeper for him to make a meaningful move on. I mean, just brilliant. And so the 5th player that I did not include on our show outline was Andres Reyes, who was given the responsibility for holding up, sitting on, squashing Christian Benteke. And you saw it in the first half when the two came together on the far sideline, and Benteke took issue to the physical play. I mean, Benteke has dropped hat tricks on the Red Bulls before, and Benteke had a number of good looks in this game. But at the end of the day, it was the play of Reyes who really frustrated DC's top striker, Mike.
And it's a rivalry game. It's against his old head coach. You think emotions could be running high against a guy who is known to get yellow cards, who's known to get red cards, and he kept his cool. And I think that is insanely commendable because, like you said, he stopped Benteke, and he did it in such a clean way and clinical way that kept the score line what it was. It should have been a clean sheet, but it's not his fault that it happened like that. And it's, if he did not make a couple of those plays, it could have been 3-2. I don't know if it would have been 3-3, but it would have been 3-2.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, huge ups to giving Sean Nealis a rest for a lot of the game. I mean, given his size and given his technical ability, and you can laugh at that, but he can be a technical guy. The fact that he wasn't on the field to start this game, my eyebrow was, in full arch. Oh my, and called for it during the game, especially as DC hit, a cross in overhead cross, from distance to two heads over and over and over again in the second half. And eventually Schwarz, did the right thing and put Nealis in to help out. But Reyes and Ayla, a good performance with the two of them. So that said, there can only be one. Well, or in our case, two. Lots of good choices, sir. Who is your bull of the week? Of the match day, excuse me.
Of the match day. Well, my soccer reporter of the match day, like my North American soccer reporter of the match day, I put Manuel as my number 2. I know Amaya had 2 assists versus 1 goal. However, the way that goal was scored and his overall play the entire 90 minutes, the fact that you right after he scored, the first half ended because that's how fast the first half was going. There was no stoppages. There was no time to take a break for any of these guys, and he still put that kind of goal out. It was Elias.
All right, I'm going to go with Coronel again. As you said, he was really shelled last night, and yes, he conceded 1, but again, this could have been a much stickier situation, and it could have been a real adventure down the stretch. But he made a number of crucial stops again. So Elias Manuel, Carlos Coronel, Viva South America are Bulls of the week. Early in the week, the Red Bulls announced with a lovely drone footage of diggers moving dirt at the former Honeywell facility off of Columbia Turnpike in Morris Township. And that means that finally, construction is underway at the new Red Bulls training complex. It's an 80-acre site that will include multiple buildings, will house all of the academy and the second team and the first team. And, for me, Mike, there are folks that are really hoping against hope on a daily basis that Red Bull sells, but they're not selling their building, and they're not, frankly, going anywhere. And they are making their imprint and their footprint in the metro region even more permanent. So the complex, they say, will be ready by the end of the fall of 2025. That's incredibly aggressive.
I don't. No way.
Really want it to be done by spring of 26 so that visiting teams can use the facility for the World Cup. But I'm just kind of curious all in on what you saw, and did it make you feel warm and fuzzy?
I mean, from where I sit, it's cool that's happening. As someone who likes FC Motown, I'm very happy when soccer things happen in Morristown, New Jersey. I will say that, Whippany has been very good to them, has been very good for development, moving things a little closer to Harrison, to, the eastern part of the state is good. A little bit.
It's on the other side of the airport. I think it may be 10 or 20 yards closer, but yes, never.
Those yards. How much did they pay for those yards?
There you go.
But I will say, it's nice to see the development. It's nice to see how much they want to put in. I'm curious what the future of Montclair State University is going to be, because if you're putting all your money into this, are you going to move the reserve team to this training facility eventually? That's where my mind is most interested in. Oh, you could keep your Ecuador and your Messi training in the World Cup. I want to. Where's Red Bull 2 going? But that's my thought.
I mean, in a world where they want to truly make MLS Next Pro a spectator event, and you and I have been around long enough to know that you and your friends can call up and say, hey, could you start the game at 6 instead of 7? I got a thing, because literally the dozens of people turn out for Red Bull 2. I'd be surprised if they make that move. I would understand it, but they've invested a whole lot into Montclair State. And but nevertheless, I think having all of the academy and the first and second teams together at the same time, all interacting in the same building, I think that's really the goal for the entire project. And it would leave Whippany for Gotham if they are staying and want to do that, if in fact that's interesting to them. The best news, Mike.
I was going to say, didn't they, with the whole Didn't they just make that land completely empty? Didn't they like make it just a plot of dirt? Like, are you saying that Gotham wants to build there, like fully new?
No. I'm saying that perhaps Gotham exclusively takes the Whippany site.
Oh, I didn't know that was still standing.
Oh yeah. No, the current Red Bulls training facility, it will still exist. Red Bull's moving out. They haven't flattened that. I mean, they're there every day.
I thought the real estate deal was that once they leave, they have to make it as it was.
Oh, I am not aware of that. That may be the case.
Maybe you know more than I do.
Yeah. It would be odd to completely dismantle a perfectly good thing. In any case, the best thing about the new training complex, there will be a media room again, because I will tell you that the current situation at Whippany is not ideal.
No, it's not.
No.
I've had plenty of things there. I will never forget trying to talk to Bruce Arena in a very cramped room during ahead of the 2018 World Cup qualifying.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, not so much. Bruce always made it not so fun. Okay, during rivalry week, it's really important to note the constantly evolving and changing tastes of this fan base. And for old heads like me, I actually had brown hair earlier this year. DC was the first rival. I think any fan that's been around since NYCFC has come into the picture would, I think, correctly indicate that NYC is our rival. There are fans that believe that Philadelphia will never be a rival to the Red Bulls, despite the Union's fans' protestations. We've beaten them the last time out, but other than that, it was 12 straight, losses or draws to them. We've taken care of work against DC 7 straight times. There are folks that would say that Atlanta is a rival, although we've only lost to them twice in our entire history. There are now fans that say that Cincinnati is a rival, given that they've eliminated us the last 2 playoffs, and those games have a ton of spice, or even the Crew. I'm curious where you sit. I mean, there's no right and wrong answer here. For some, there is absolutely a right and wrong answer, but I don't believe that to be the case. What do you think?
I mean, when it comes to the Union, I feel like more people dislike Jim Curtin than they do the Union. That's the problem here. Like, they don't like, because Jim Curtin is spicy. The Union aren't the problem, and their fans want to make it a one-sided rivalry. Meanwhile, in a post-game press conference, that's when the fun begins.
Right.
Not what's on the field. Look, I'm kind of in the middle, where New York City FC is the main rival of the New York Red Bulls. And then I go DC United second and Columbus Crew third, because I still think that the Columbus Crew are a playoff rival. Because I want to say, there's been so many years where the Red Bulls run to the Crew and they just almost always lose to them in the playoffs. It is ridiculous. Hey, who was our only MLS Cup final loss to?
Yes, Columbus.
The Crew.
Right.
And they're a playoff rival. Then there's Atlanta United behind them, because when they first came into the league, they were the it team, and we were their kryptonite.
Yes.
Until we weren't. And now the thing is, they aren't the it team anymore. They're just, a team. They still do good crowds. They still have cheap food, but they're just not the fun. They're not the one everyone's watching. And
they've lost 3 straight matches at home for the first time in team history. You hate to see it, but more than that, you love to see it. And then what are your thoughts on Cincinnati?
Cincinnati is still mad that we beat them in the Open Cup. And that's pretty much it. It's literally that. And even as someone who's an Open Cup aficionado, and hindsight being 2020, I kind of want to see the timeline where Bradley Red Phillips didn't save us in that semifinal, because I would love to see Crew versus USL Cincinnati. But that's the only reason why they care. And Red Bull does not care about this team. And Frankie Amaya coming to the New York Red Bulls is a nice addition, but even he doesn't care about FC Cincinnati. He wants to move on.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I hang out with the Auxilia 1, like the FC Cincinnati fans in New York City. They're great dudes. I wouldn't do that if I hated them.
Right. Okay. All right. That's fair. Nevertheless, that's a good chat. Let's get into our NYCFC preview. Saturday at 7:30, the Red Bulls take on the blue team. this is the first time that the Red Bulls will face NYC at Citi Field, home of the New York Mets. NYC, as you can see, is 6-5-2 for 20 points. They're fourth in the East. They've scored only 16 times in 13 matches. They've conceded just 15 times in 13 matches. It's the second worst attack in the East, and they are 4-2-1 at home. And I put that in quotes because they have a number of them. However, they are on a big run, just as the Red Bulls are. They've won 4 of their last 5, the only loss being a 2-0 home defeat to Chris Armas and the Colorado Rapids. Yes, I'm going to say that again, Chris Armas and the Colorado Rapids. But their last 2 wins, a 3-2 win at TFC and a 2-1 win last night at Philadelphia. And so just as the Red Bulls are coming in with a huge feeling of confidence in the chest, NYC Nick's Cushing boys are doing the same. This is not the same team that you are accustomed to seeing, and we're going to learn a little bit when we talk to Roberto Abramowitz in our second segment about the changes. You can see them here on the screen. Alfredo Morales was traded to San Jose. Matias Pellegrini went back to Villar Sarsfield in Argentina. Nicolas Acevedo was loaned out to Bahia in Brazil. Diego Andrade went to Shenzhen in China on loan. For real? Okay. And Gabe Siegel was traded to Houston. And here are the players that came in. Andres Perea is a known quantity. He was brought in from Philly. Before that, he was in Orlando. Hannes Wolf came in from Mönchengladbach, and he scored a banger of a goal. It was a near Olympico last night from just inside the corner flag. Argentine winner Agustin Ojeda, you can see him there from Spartak Subotica. Thomas Romero, a goalkeeper from El Salvador, signed on a free. Woohoo! And Jovan Mijatovic joined from Red Star Belgrade. He's only 18, and he's a talent. There is some interesting themes going on around NYCFC right now. John Herdman accused NYC coach Nick Cushing of striking a young TFC player after the win, after the loss the other day, where there was a huge brawl at the end of the match, and John Herdman and Jonathan Osorio were apparently accused of hitting a Toronto player in the aftermath of the game that happened back in March. And you'll hear me talk to Roberto about this, but I'm sorry. Why didn't we hear about this in March? If you're going to make an accusation that the coach of another MLS team hit a player on your team, maybe you do that right away. I don't know. After a dismal start to the year, the NYC only won 1 in their first 7, and Cushing was absolutely on the hot seat. But again, they've turned it around with 4 of their last 5. Santi Rodriguez is really put the team on his back with 5 goals and 3 assists so far this season. And Ramirez, as we will hear up top, the Costa Rican has absolutely stepped it up with 3 goals. The striker problems continue. Monsef Bakrar was brought in at the middle of last season to make up for the departure of Tati Castellanos, who Red Bull fans surely know as an NYCFC totem that's gone. Talis Magno was not the answer, and Bakrar has not scored this year. But I guess hope springs eternal over there. History, always important to note. This is the 28th meeting between the teams. The Red Bulls by far are way out in front in the all-time series, and that's principally because the Red Bulls absolutely owned NYCFC when they came in to the league. The home team is unbeaten in the last 4 meetings in this series, 3 wins and a draw, and there has been a clean sheet in the last 8 matches between these teams. The last time these teams played were back on September 16th, where there was a scoreless draw in the Bronx. Consider all time in May, the Red Bulls lead 4-0. And the last time these teams played in May in the city was the Red winning. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. The all-time leading scorer, to the surprise of absolutely no one, is BWP, who loved to play NYC. Active leading scorers, Kyle and Lewis Morgan, each have a goal against City. Here is the prospective lineup. Matt Freese, goalkeeper, has 2 clean sheets and 15 goals against in 13 games. Mita Ilinic from Slovenia On the right, Diego Martins, who's been around for a while with an assist. Burke Risa, a Norwegian. Kevin O'Toole, former Red Bull Academy player, at left back. And then the sixes are Andres Pereira with a goal, and Big Keaton Parks with a goal and assist, who, I mean, for me, is so imposing in that position. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't done a little bit better moving into the national team picture, because I'm always very impressed with Keaton Parks. Hannes Wolf on the right with a goal and 3 assists. Santi Rodriguez, 5 and 3 at the 10, and Malachi Jones from Sierra Leone with the goal. And then up top, Alonso Martinez, 3 goals. He was brought in as a winger and has been playing up top just because they can't figure out a striker to play there. Maxi Morales is out with an ACL tear, to the very, very upsetting for all of them. And I'm going to do my best on this. Strahinja Tanasilovic, you're welcome, is suspended after that ugly, ugly brawl. And so the question I have for you, Mr. Battista, is what are you looking for in this game? What are we going to see out of Nick Cushing's guys here?
I mean, we're going to see a lot of rotation, and I'm curious to see what players Nick Cushing uses from Rebels from New York City FC too. When their Open Cup run right now has really opened my eyes to their depth. And you mentioned Tomas. You mentioned Tomas Romero. That guy is a really good goalkeeper. And if he's not going to start because Freeze is there, but I'm going to say there's Jonathan Jimenez, who every time he was on the ball during the Open Cup game, Nick Cushing could be seen in the box next to the press box at Belson Stadium, locked in. He's watching this guy. Yeah. And there's just so much. You say they're missing a striker. I'm not saying that getting a guy from MLS Next Pro is going to fix everything, but it is an option. Oh, that's not good.
2-0?
Yeah, I think it's 2-0. But what I'm going to say here is that you are going to see a lot of rotation, and I don't think either team's going to have a real edge in this, because this is the kind of game that's going to end 2-2 and no one leaves Citi Field happy, just like being a New York Mets fan.
I will tell you, as a New York Mets fan, there are days that I feel a glint of happiness. They usually have little to do with the Mets. But any chance to go to Citi Field I will take, because it is a so much superior experience than going to the bank branch of a stadium in the Bronx. It's actually a ballpark. It feels like a ballpark. And I'm very, very curious to see what the soccer looks like there. I understand that the outlay of the field is actually a whole lot better, and the sound stays in and all that. I'm very excited about it. So, I mean, we've already gone to prediction. You just came out and said it. That was exactly the numbers that I had. So I now am going to do something different, and I'm going to say it's a 2-1 Red Bulls win, because I dare to be different. Who's the one player on each team, Mike, that's going to be the difference maker?
So for the Red Bulls, it's going to be Lewis Morgan. Right now in my starting 11, I have him starting. Yes. But let's say Sandro says, we're going to put you on the bench and bring you on. We're going to give Dante and
Elias.
We'll figure something out. But whenever he steps on the field, he's going to be the difference maker for the Red Bulls. That's my prediction. That's my call for that. But with NYCFC, I'm not going to lie. I'm just not sure, because like you said, they got no strikers. As someone who's seen Jovan play with NYCFC too, he looked completely out of his element playing with a bunch of kids against a terrible USL Championship team. I can't imagine him looking any better against a professional MLS team, against a fully professional First Division MLS team. So honestly, I guess Matt Freeze, because if the Red Bulls are going to go, or if Red Bulls are going to go on the counterattack, he's going to be on his, he's got to be on the front foot.
All right. When we're back on Seeing Red, we are very, very happy to welcome back Roberto Abramowitz from NYCFC Radio. So keep it here, and we'll be right back. Read the New York Soccer Roundup on YouTube and anywhere you listen to pods. Mark Fishkin here, and very, very pleased to have back on Seeing Red before the first Hudson Derby of the season. That's Roberto Abramowitz of NYCFC Radio. Roberto, how are you? It's great to see you. I love the fashion. You're really making a statement with the black T-shirt. I'm all in line with that. Old Jewish men telling jokes. Tell me a little bit about how you are, and tell me a little bit about what's going on with NYC, my friend.
I got the memo about the uniform, and I didn't want to disappoint you. I thought that was important to start out, on something positive, right? On something good. So yeah, as we both wearing the official New York fashion statement uniform of black, no matter what time of the year it is, I think that puts us, in a good place to start over here. I'm doing fine, doing great. Enjoying watching some pretty good soccer lately, which is nice. It's not easy, to watch a team do poorly as New York City was at the beginning of the season, especially when you travel with the team and all that. So you want to see them do well, and now we're coming into the Hudson River Derby, and it's going to be fun because both teams are good. I like this. This is fun.
Yeah, both teams are on a hot streak. It's been such a rebuild on the City side. New York's added a few pieces, but City has seemingly, there are going to be a lot of names on Saturday that Red Bull fans aren't necessarily familiar with. So could you just take us through just a few of the new additions to the squad and how Nick Cushing has been integrating them to some success over the last month or so?
Sure. I mean, most of the changes have come up front, which has been the forward line. It began poorly for the team. They couldn't find a way to score goals. Munsif Bakrar has been having, a hard time in that area, because if you start looking, and I've spoken to the coaches about this, and if you start looking at the other things that he's been doing as a number 9, which is, going out and playing defense up front, pressuring, the other teams, coming out of the back and things like that. And all these things coming back and playing well defensively. He's doing a lot of things that are very, very positive. Unfortunately, when you're the number 9, you basically get rated for how many goals you have. Yes. And sadly, this season, it's been very difficult for him to find his scoring touch. So the last game that he started, which was 3 games ago, he had a goal called back because of offside, and he was offside. And he had another shot that hit the post, hit the goalie in the back, and then instead of going in, which happens a lot, it went out. So he's been snake bit. He's also missed a lot of sitters, which just obviously that isn't good either. So I don't have the numbers right in front of me right now, and I don't want to go and start looking for them. But the number that stands out is that he hasn't scored since last year. He's played 11 games, I believe, this year. He hasn't scored in any of them. I think it's like up to 16 or 17 games in a row since last year. He hasn't scored. It's 100. It's going into the Philly game, because he did come in for the end of the game. But I had it at 1,815. So it's almost 1,900 minutes without a goal. If he's your center forward, he's got to do that. So he hasn't started in the last 2 games, 1 for injury and 1 coach's decision. He came off the bench, and Alonso Martinez has, and the team just seems to have found itself a little bit better with Alonso Martinez playing there. That's not his strong position. He's better at wing. That's what they brought him in for. But he knows how to play center forward, and he's a very efficient shooter. And that we've been able to see. And he already has 3 goals on the season, 2 of them from the center forward position, which is the only center forward goals that New York City has so far this season.
3 goals in 8 appearances, 3 goals in 338 minutes for Martinez. That's a pretty good strike rate. So
yes, it is.
Tell us about Hannes Wolf, who is a DP on this team. Yes, he was brought in as a DP.
Well, he's been brought down by Tam and Gam, so he doesn't qualify necessarily as a DP, but he has a salary that's DP salary. I believe the numbers today that they came out was 1.4 million, and there was a lot of people that went, "Oh, really? Okay, good for him, good for Hannes." Well, Hannes has been doing pretty well, and especially lately. He already has a goal. He's got 3 assists in 13 games. A lot of them have come lately. The goal that he scored last night in Philadelphia was just wonderful. A great free kick. It was almost an Olympico to be able to describe the goal to somebody who may not have seen it.
Mhm.
And because it was a free kick deep in Philadelphia, it was like 5 yards. I had described it on the radio broadcast: 5 yards from the end line and 5 yards in from the sideline. So just think that ball position from the right side, hitting it with his left foot, going over the goalkeeper, hitting the post, and coming in.
Oh,
It's
wow.
a fantastic goal right at the end of the first half in stoppage time, and it gave New York a 2-0 lead at the time. And aside from that, I mean, he's been playing well, taking players on, beating them, combining very well with Santi Rodriguez, who's been playing fantastically this season. And you're starting to see this team offensively come together. And lately, they've been doing very, very well. It was helped considerably by playing 5 games in a row at home. They had 3 wins, a tie, and a loss. The 2-0 loss to Colorado sort of hurt. But then they went on the road and they convincingly played a very good game against Toronto and beat them 3-2. And Toronto's a good game. They were in third place when they played them. Is a good team, rather. They were in third place when New York City played them. And then, they went on the road and beat Philadelphia. And Philly's still a good team despite their recent struggles. God, I mean, I've got to say, Philly created a million chances last night, and they probably should have done a hell of a lot better. But Matt Freese has been absolutely spectacular for New York City. He's really, really been great. And then Philly really missed a lot of sitters. So, hey, they're maybe a little bit snake bit right now. But, you go through these things, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, my heart bleeds for Philly. Not really. Cushing, certainly, we saw today.
We have something in common.
We do. We saw we have quite a few things in common. We saw today Gary Smith in Nashville, the first MLS coach to get canned, shown the door this season. Nick Cushing was on the hot seat as recently as 6 weeks ago. So what has changed for City? It was simply getting the home games. Was it, finding, having Martinez step in at the 9? Like what has been the difference over the last 5 matches for City? I mean, up to 4th, the season's very forgiving. You can take a couple of months off to find yourself and still find yourself right in the mix. So what has been different of late?
I think the team is just coming together and they've been able to iron out, the problems that they had. Set pieces at the beginning of the season were a huge problem. And now that doesn't seem to be as much of a problem. I mean, every so often they do give up a goal on a set piece. They did it last night in Philly. So, it hasn't been totally, but it's much, much better than it was. And I want to give Philly credit for a really good set piece and a great shot by Carranza. Nobody was freaking stopping that. So I want to give him credit for that. But it takes time for a lot of these players that come in new and fresh for them to be able to find their footing and find their way with the team, getting to know their teammates, getting to know systems, hell, getting to know English. They got a lot of guys who, come in and, don't speak the language. So there's a lot of things that, take time. And I think that last year was a very imperfect team for New York City. And they didn't have a 9 for most of the year. They try to shoehorn Talles Magno into that position, and that didn't work at all. It proved very, you could see it that wasn't going to work. It worked with Tati Castellanos. It doesn't necessarily work with everybody else. So, and then once that didn't work, you really didn't have a plan B. They brought in Monsef Bakrar. And when Bakrar came in, I believe it was something like 8 goals in 38 games in, where he was coming from. And that's not numbers to shout about. So you think, all right, they saw something that they could say, hey, we can fix this. Right. And he got 3 goals last year. But this year, so far, it's been hard. He hasn't been able to score. And at the end of last year, he didn't do very well either as far as that concern. But he's a guy who's like a really good guy. He works his butt off. As I said earlier, he does so many other things right that really help the team. But his main responsibility is scoring goals, and he's got to get better at that. But Alonso Martinez right now is playing in that position, and I think it's really hard to make a change right now that would bring Bakrar back into that position. But, we'll see on Saturday what Nick Cushing is thinking, because he'd said that he was going to rotate the team. and he rotated the team, and it's worked out so far.
The last time these teams played in the city in May was May 21st of 2016. Do you remember that game, Roberto? Because
I'm
that
trying to. I think I've done a good job of trying to put that aside.
that was the
But,
Red Wedding.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I'm curious how Cushing is going to play New York, and will he be Vieira-like in his insistence in playing out of the back against the Red Bulls?
Well, I mean, he played them twice last year, and I think he has a better team this year than he did last year.
Yeah.
So, and then last year, both games, it was 1-0 Red Bulls in the Leagues Cup final, right?
Not
We're
the
in the Leagues
final.
final stage.
In the group.
Red Bulls beat 1-0.
Okay.
They beat New York City. That eliminated New York City from that.
Yep.
And then let's see what else happened.
Scoreless draw.
They beat them 1-0 in May 13, and then they tied 0-0 in Yankee Stadium.
Right.
So the teams were close, but New York City has a hard time playing the Red Bulls. But then again, who doesn't? I don't think anybody looks forward to playing the red team. They just don't. I mean, they make a mess of the game, and they do it very, very well, and that's fine. That's a strategy they got to do. And now they can score goals. And God, Elias Manuel last night with a fantastic goal against DC to open the scoring. That was fun to watch. And so I'm looking forward to this because both teams are good now. I haven't gotten much of a chance to see the Red Bulls, and I'm going to before I call the game on Saturday. But everything that I see, except for a Miami game here and there, has been pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost 2 out of 13. So, and those losses were bad, but as Schwartz has said, we've played Miami for 4 halves and we won 3 of them. So he will come in. They'll be confident. They'll be ready to go. Let me ask you one more thing before we let you go. Obviously, a sea change for City. Finally, after years of wandering between the Bronx and Queens, we know that they'll have a permanent home, and they're getting construction going, and it will happen. How has that news reinvigorated the fan base? Because I'll tell you, I know a number of people that had told City, like, when the stadium's done, give me a call, but until then, I'm not coming. Well, now the stadium's coming, and it's going to be a couple of seasons for sure, but by if you believe architecture's rendering, it's going to be an absolute gem. How have you seen excitement among the fan base since the stadium?
Everybody's really excited for the stadium. I mean, and little by little, they're releasing renderings of different areas, and they just released the renderings of the porch for the supporter section, and then how the supporter section is going to be, and there's going to be something like 3,400 seats, I believe, for that area, and it's going to be the steepest supporter section in the country. So that's going to be a wall of sound. I mean, that's going to be fantastic. The stadium looks great. I'm going to have a booth, according to what they said. Actually, one of the first things that we were told was like, well, we needed space, to make the stadium a little bit. So we got rid of radio booths. And we're like, excuse me? I was like, hello? And no, we're going to be, there's going to be enough radio booths for everybody. So that's going to be good. I'm really excited. It's in the perfect place to be. It's in the middle of Queens. It's in the middle of Flushing, Willets Point, Corona, Jackson Heights, that whole area, which is very heavily immigrant, mostly Hispanic, mostly Central South American. I mean, this is a soccer hotbed. You couldn't have dropped the stadium in a better place than New York City. I am so happy it didn't happen in the Bronx. Sorry, Bronx fans.
Wow.
That wasn't the place for it. That just wasn't the place for it. Where it is, and I had told the team back when they started telling us about how close they were with the Bronx, and they were really close.
Yeah, no,
and I was like, you guys really have to be in Queens. You got to be next to Citi Field. And when the Mets changed ownership, and I know that the Wilpons weren't there because and the Wilpons were against everything. And I was like, you really should go speak to Steve Cohen and see if you guys can do something, because you really need to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that the Bronx didn't work out, and I'm thrilled that it worked out where it is. It's a longer commute for me. I'll take the hit.
Okay.
I'm okay. I will live with that. The extra 20-minute commute, it takes 15
Yes.
minutes to get to Yankee Stadium. It takes me about 35 to get to Willard's Point. I'll take it. It's fine because I think that it's in the absolute perfect place to be.
Well, it's been a perfect chance to talk to you tonight. I really always appreciate it. Roberto Abramowitz calls NYCFC matches on the radio. Roberto, enjoy the match and have a great time.
I will do that, and it's going to be fun. And it's welcome to Citi Field for the first time, by the way.
Yes,
You're going
that's
to like
right.
the atmosphere there. I think it's something, I don't know if you got a couple of seconds, but the atmosphere at Citi Field is
So
much
much
better
better.
than Yankee Stadium. It
Yeah,
really
well,
is, because everybody's closer to the field. The way the stadium is put together, it's closer. And by the way, they've opened up extra sections for this game. So the way it's configured for, or has been configured for all of New York City games there, they hold 23,500. For this, they've opened up the upper deck, and the tickets there are like $28 or something like that, which is pretty damn cheap.
come on
And
out.
I don't care if you're red or blue, go there. The more people that are there, the better the atmosphere. And let's have a great time. Let's have a great game, and may the better team win.
Awesome. Roberto, thank you so much for joining us on Seeing Red. Really appreciate it.
I always look forward to this, Mark. Take care of yourself. And by the way, go Rangers tonight.
Absolutely. We've got more Seeing Red coming up after this short break. We are back at Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. I'm here. You're there. Mike's over there. Thank you so much for Roberto coming in. We've got a great email bag. You can email us at any time with your internet-powered device at seeingredny@gmail.com. We encourage you to do this. We have tonight a first-time emailer, someone that has been listening to the show for a very long time, and wrote for the first time. And it's not Mark Nestor, who writes first. Hello, Mark and Mike. I trust Joe is on the mend. Will be resuming his co-hosting duties in the not-too-distant future. Thoughts and prayers are with you, good sir. Agreed. The Athletic published an article that shows the top valued football teams in the world. European powerhouses also are unsurprisingly the most valued clubs, but many MLS teams make up a large chunk of that list, with 20 of the top 50 being from MLS? What? I don't fully understand the rubric of how they arrived at these rankings, but future value is part of it, which makes some sense to me given the huge boost the sport should receive in the country over the next few years, with so much high-level football being played in the country. Anyway, the Red Bulls are considered slightly more valuable than RB Leipzig, though they are essentially at parity in terms of value. Given this information, I feel we as fans should share this information with Herr Schneider and his superiors at Red Bull so they start treating New York like the asset it can be, not only as a talent pool, but as a future crown jewel of their soccer football empire. Let's see them invest money on the field to make the Red Bulls a true challenger for the trophies in MLS every year. We're already in a great spot so far this year, so why not go for it? That's Mark Nestor. It's not like Red Bull has to go to the bank and take a loan out and say, hey, look, my New York team is so much more valuable. I would like money to buy new players. The notion that calling the Red Bulls more valuable than a Bundesliga team, I find specious at best. But Mike, we've been told that there's more coming. And to be fair, when players like Olivier Giroud and, as rumored, Angel Di Maria coming to Miami and Giroud signed for LAFC, is it an arms race? Like, what does this league look like in 6 months?
I don't even know what this league's going to look like next week. In 6 months, you're going to see a lot of guys, off their European contracts, consider coming here. And the whole stigma of, it's a retirement league. And it's like, who cares? Who cares? I think that, there's a lot of growth there's a high ceiling in this league still, especially with the World Cup coming up. You have Copa America. You have a FIFA Club World Cup where the host country is guaranteed to have 2 teams because the host country gets an extra team besides Seattle, which is totally not going to be Inter Miami. What are you talking about? But
they could get Columbus. Columbus is 1 win away from being another team.
And then it'd be 3 teams.
Okay.
But it totally makes sense because look at what's happening in Germany right now. You just had a major shift in power of like who's the top dog. While that's great for fans, that's terrible for investment. When Leicester City won, that was great for fans. That was terrible for the other guys because they go, "Oh God, what are we gonna do? These schmucks just won."
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense.
All right. I think, we're the salary roll dropped today. We're going to talk about it on next week's show, but Emil's making $6 million. And if you bring in another player, even for half that money, you can get a really good player. And it'll be really interesting to see what they do. And, they've told us, I mean, you can make the argument that getting smoked by Miami will actually turn out to be a good thing for the team in the long run, because you can see when that team is on that there's literally no one in the league that's going to be able to stand with them. And if you want to have a shot at winning a trophy with these guys in the league, you have to invest more. I mean, you have to, or you're going to concede. And I don't think they want to do that. And the Red Bulls are 4th on the Shield table, right? They've lost twice in 13 games. And yet most Red Bull fans would say that it's not been super great. After
it goes to like how much is his base salary? $6 million for Emil Forsberg. He scored 4 goals and 3 of them were penalty kicks.
Wait. Oh, okay. Wait. You cannot say that the impact that Forsberg has brought to the team has not impacted everyone beyond his goal contributions on the field.
Let me say this. It was supposed to be an off season of major additions and major, what was the word? Spending. And they brought in 4 guys. Now, I think Emil Forsberg is a bet right now through 14 match days, whatever 13. It's been, 13 match days. You have seen him be a great playmaker. And even though he's only got 4 assists, if this was hockey, he'd have like at least 10 because he's got like that secondary assist. But it's tough to get excited when the main guy is the guy that was supposed to be the next coming has just been the setup man. He's kind of been like Fabio a couple years ago.
I'm sorry. If Forsberg doesn't come to this team is not in 3rd place in the East. Like, no way. If they don't have
you're asking me why fans are like kind of iffy. I'm just saying why I think so. I agree with you, but it's just not been flashy enough for them.
Oh, I see. So you're reflecting fans being like, it's been okay, despite the fact that this, 10-year Bundesliga player has really lifted as the captain. He's lifted the team, right? No one's coming to see Emil Forsberg at Red Bull Arena is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Thanks, Mark, for the note. Here's Scott 6, frequent flyer, who writes, Mark and Joe, first of all, our healing thoughts and prayers for those who pray are with you, Joe. Your spirit shone through the last few months as you battle this, and that proves you will do it yet again. Here. On the football, the biggest thing I saw and felt from my thankfully dry, if not yet warm seat in Section 130 that sets this group apart from what we've seen over the last years isn't just new and healthy talent. It isn't just a coordinated and patient attack. It's the guts to brains to feet pipeline. The last few years, the team would play hard. That was always clear, but playing hard didn't always connect to actually playing well. Last year, if an opponent pulled within a goal with 6 or 7 minutes left, the entire stadium would have tightened you-know-whats, and so would have the team, and stoppage time would have been a bunkering, miserable mess, most likely ending with an equalizer and the visitors celebrating. Instead, the team has kept their composure, put that energy and to their brains and feet, kept doing what they needed to do, and quickly responded to that fatal blow. That's the difference between this year and what we've seen since 2019. However, you have to consider some of the growing pains that players like Noah Isla have had with the own goal at Orlando and deflecting Denny Bouanga's ball at LAFC, turning 2 wins into draws. But I agree that the team is certainly more skilled than it's been in a very long time. And tactically, I think more often than not, Schwartz gets it absolutely right.
Yeah, in previous years, their goal was to just chuck it in there and hopefully there was a tall guy to head it in. That was their ideology. They were just going directly for the net. Now they cede possession a lot more and they do more with less time on the ball. And I think that takes a lot of skill to do.
You can make the argument that Sean Nealis's Route 1 goal with Lewis Morgan against New England was a prime example of chucking it up and trying to get it through it. But I appreciate the fact that the team can score in different ways, right? So much has been written about the evolution of this team under Schwartz, how they're not balls to the wall pressing, how they can sit in a mid block, how they can counter when they need to, or they can press, that they're comfortable playing in different ways at different times in the game. And I think, and this is absolutely not a knock on any of the past coaches we've had over the last few years, but I think we were seeing a savviness. And he has the pieces, mind you, but I think he's doing very well with the pieces he has.
Of course. And I think there's always that question at press conferences or, pre-match things. It's like, are you guys going to do anything at the window? You guys going to look to try and bring anyone in the window? And I think it's because there's always this idea that the Red Bulls are still missing something. And they could add something, but they have so much. They have so much scoring ability. They have so many untapped goals up front with Emile, Lewis Morgan, Dante, and Manuel. And it's just like, there's so many goals here. Yeah. Why do we need something else? You should be able to do it. And they do it. But they just need to find a couple more ways to move the ball around, I guess.
To that, I think Schwartz made it very clear last night after the game that he really values, he says it's not just 11 players or 12 players or 13 players. His whole roster is up for discussion and playing meaningful roles. And we haven't even talked about Corey Burke getting his first goal in a year last night, which was great to see. Corey Burke, I don't believe is an elite striker in MLS. I think Corey Burke, does not look pretty on the field with his runs, but he sure scored a goal last night. And I think, his it's infectious, the good feeling around the team. And, just even starting Kyle Duncan this week after against DC United, after Dylan Nealis all but ripped the starting job away from him and Cam Harper. And I think that Schwartz talks about the fact that, iron makes iron. And these practices are very, very competitive because he really has meaningful choices at every position. I mean, certainly Forsberg's not, going to come off the field unless he's injured. But I think at a lot of interesting spots, there's competition. You can make the argument now with Stroud out that if it's not Amaya and Danny Edelman, they're a little thin at the 6, and that could come into play over the transfer window. But I agree with you 100% that, I mean, this team is third in the league in goals, by the way. Third in the league after scoring 8 over the last 4 days. But as you said, there are a lot more goals to be had.
No, you've hit all the points there. I really don't have anything much else to add.
Okay. Let's keep going then. All right. So Rich Kachisi has been listening to the show for a decade, and this is his first email. So first of all, thank you for listening for so long, and thank you for writing, because I think that's terrific, and you should write more. Hey guys, something I've always ever wondered as I commute in and out of the city, whether it be on Route 109 or Route 280, any idea why there aren't any team logos on the stadium other than the one on the roof side facing Newark? How many people drive by those days on major interstates and see the stadium? A friend even sent me a pic of a plane flying over the stadium just before landing in Newark, and it's just so bland and boring from a distance. Any thoughts? Do Do you think big visible logos would help interest and attendance? I've been a fan of the show for over a decade. I look forward to showing your week. Thanks, Richard Kachishi. P.S. How great is Lloyd Sam in the booth during commentary? He was doing Charlotte games for the Apple takeover, and very happy for him. We've had Lloyd on the show plenty. Lloyd is terrific. He's really grown and allowed his authentic voice to come through with his commentary, and I couldn't be happier for him as well. I love Lloyd Sam. Former DC United player, Lloyd Sam. Mike, any thoughts?
Former the Miami FC player as well.
Former the Miami FC player, where Ben Mines works now.
No, he's not. He got traded.
Oh, he did? Where is he now?
He is at Indy 11.
Oh, good for Ben Mines.
Good for Ben Mines.
It was a magic moment. A magic moment. Any thoughts on hanging more big old honking logos on the stadium?
I mean, I kind of get what he's saying, because I've driven, past Newark Airport, and then I, look to my left once I get past there, and I go, oh, there's the place. It just, it looks pretty from afar because it's so different than every other typical New York area stadium. But that's just a sicko like me. To everyone else, just like a great blob. I don't think putting a logo on the opposite side is going to help, mostly because think about what highways are running around there. If you're going past Newark Airport, it's from far away, and you're gonna have to like rubberneck to see it. Yeah. If you're on 280, that's gonna be a hard angle. His idea should be more about why aren't there more billboards, which I think they stopped doing in like 2014. That would probably get the job done more than adding another big logo on the stadium.
I mean, it wouldn't kill them to paint Red Bull Arena in big red letters on the side of the stadium facing 280. Like I've often said in the early days of the stadium, it was like, a huge sign that says next home game Saturday against Cincinnati. Like use it. You've got literally thousands of people driving by. I used to take that train line the entire time that the stadium district was being built, and often heard people saying, I have no idea what they're building there. It looks like a spaceship. I would like to think that people understand what's going on there now, but listen, Arsenal fans couldn't be bothered when Henry was here. There are Arsenal fans that didn't know he was here. I don't necessarily think, driving past the Prudential Center and being like, is that a hockey arena? I'm going to go see the Devils. And I mean, no disrespect to Devil fans, and the Devil fans turn out. I don't know. They got 19th. They announced, 19,000 the other night. There were not 19,000 people there, but as the weather turns warm, I think, and the team keeps winning, they'll be great. Here's our last email. Thank you, Richard. Here's our last email of the night. Quickly, Paul Fleck. Hey guys, glad to pick up 3 points. Let's keep it rolling. What's your take on the recent survey from the club about potential RBA enhancements? I love the club is looking to upgrade the arena experience. I'm not sure how to feel about many of the proposals. Most seem to geared toward the high end, read as expensive. I'm not sure we'll add to the game day atmosphere. As part of a group of supporters that have attended for years and now bringing the family, there are enhancements that I doubt we'd be able to enjoy without being priced out. Would guess it's familiar for other folks as well. I know this is a very American strategy for sports experience over the last decade, and I understand the need to want to drive revenue, but I'm interested in what you guys think. Keep up the good work. Appreciate your insights. Best wishes while Joe is away. I did not get this survey, but from what I understand, the focus was, building patios where you could enjoy a drink while you watch. We've seen a real sea change in terms of the atmosphere, and from one that was very pure soccer to one that's very family friendly and fan enjoyment friendly, because at the end of the day, it's all about getting people to come back, right? You got to come back a second time. And, I think premium spaces are important. I agree, because they bring in a lot of money for the team with significantly less effort. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it appears that the game for the pure hardcore supporter, like there's a place in the stadium for them, and that's in the supporter section. And there's certainly evolutions going on within the supporters groups about, getting those guys to turn out every week. I don't know. I mean, the stadium is 15 years old. I mean, it looks amazing for being 15 years old. They just upgraded the lights. They've, I think the pregame light show is really kind of cool. I think they've done a good job with that. I'm not a fan of stadium hosts, as anyone that would listen to the show would know. I think it detracts from the actual game. I'm not a fan of putting fans on the field, so on the jumbotron, so they jump around and act like idiots when the ball's not in play. I'm a little more of a traditionalist, but old man yells at cloud. I think a lot of other people really get into it, and you've got to take casual first timers and make them have a good time so they come back. Anything to add, Mike?
I will remember, I think it was pre-COVID. I remember there were the talks about putting a restaurant in Red Bull Arena. That was talked about so that you could have something during the game, but also people will be going to the stadium in the off season during off days. So people would know to go there. There's been talks about putting a sports book in the upper corner, which has been divisive, but that's just the way things are going, and people would go there during the off days. And I think that's one way to get money out of the stadium. Now, looking at putting more luxury in, look at where we sit as press, and look how many more seats they could put there.
Yes,
and I think that's very tempting. The idea that I feel for the families who love going to Red Bull games, but this team is 25th in attendance some years. And if they're going to try and maximize profit, it's grimy, but I get it. And you said that there's a place for the hardcore fans in the sports section. That's true. It's also upstairs. And that's terrible to say, but I'm not Mark here. I'm not the GM. I'm not the one who's going to be making those decisions,
No, but we get to talk about him here on Seeing Red all the time. We've come to an end of a fantastic episode 574 of Seeing Red. Mike Battista, first of all, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me covering the Red Bulls on New York City Sports Nation. You can find me covering the U.S. Open Cup on the cup.us and ussoccer.com. And you can find me covering lower league soccer on Hudson River Blue.
Very prolific. Mike calls Saturday night's game a 2-2 draw, I believe.
Correct.
I'm going to call it a 2-1 Red Bulls win. Joe Goldstein, we miss you. We're thinking about you every day. I want to thank Roberto Abramowitz for coming by. I want to thank Zach Feldman for stats, as always. Thank you, Mike, once again for dropping by and guest hosting. And thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week to pick through the wreckage of a Hudson Derby and get you ready for the Red Bulls' next match. I'm Mark Fishkin saying thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.